Chap Other. Chapter 457. Maybe you know each other. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. At the entrance of the Lorenzo Hotel. When Connor saw the man in a white suit, he was instantly stunned. He was extremely shocked. Because Connor knew this man. This man was called Eve Lynn. He was also a student at the Porthampton University, but Eve was 1 year older than Connor. Eve was considered a well-known rich heir in the Porthampton University. After all, his family owned such a big hotel. He was considered a famous person in the university. Logically speaking, Connor and a rich heir like Eve would not cross paths. However, Connor had joined a Zither Club when he was in university, and the president of the Zither Club was Melissa Sachs, who had crashed into Connor's car some time ago. When Connor first came to the Porthampton University, Eve was crazily pursuing Melissa. He had also joined the Zither Club. However, Melissa had never taken a fancy to Eve. Although Eve's family was very rich, he was ugly. Not only was he fat, but he also had pimples all over his face. No matter how rich Eve's family was, Melissa would never be with such a guy. Connor had seen Eve a few times when he was in the Zither Club, but fortunately, Connor did not go to the Zither Club many times. Moreover, seeing that Melissa did not accept his feelings for her, Eve gave up pursuing her, so he did not go to the Zither Club again. Connor did not know if Eve still recognized him. "Connor, what's wrong?" Mina seemed to have noticed that something was wrong with Connor's expression and couldn't help but ask him softly. Update on Biomicron X0VL. Omicron. Nothing. Connor hurriedly replied. Mina was very smart. She knew that there must be a reason Connor was like this. After hesitating for a moment, she asked Connor softly, "Connor, do you know this guy?" "I guess, but I don't know if he still remembers me." Connor felt that there was no need to hide this kind of stuff, so he directly replied. HH. When Mina heard Connor's words, a trace of nervousness flashed across her face. She then whispered, "It doesn't matter. It's fine even if you know each other. At most, we'll just be exposed by them." Mina did not expect Sierra and the others to know the students from Porthampton University. However, since everyone was already here, if they suddenly said that they wanted to leave, it would definitely make them suspicious. Therefore, Mina had no intention of leaving. Connor took a deep breath and followed Mina to where Sierra and the others were. At this moment, Sierra was chatting with Eve and the others. It could be seen that Eve had given up on pursuing Melissa and was preparing to pursue Sierra. Just like Melissa, Sierra felt that Eve was ugly and had no intention of being with him at all. If it were not for what happened at the entrance of Fairy Lake Resort, Sierra would not have told Eve that she was in Porthampton. "Mina, this is the good friend I told you about, Eve Lynn." When Sierra saw Mina walking over, she introduced her with a smile. "Hello." Mina looked at Eve with a faint smile and greeted him. When Eve saw Mina, he couldn't help but gulp. He was stunned. After all, Mina was the most beautiful among the girls. Whether it was her figure or her appearance, she was the best of the best. Most importantly, Mina's temperament was very good. It was not something that an ordinary girl like Sierra could compare to. Eve looked at Mina lecherously and ignored Sierra and the others. Sierra was no fool. She knew very well what Eve's reaction meant. Sierra could not help but curse Eve in her heart. Then, She coughed twice and pointed at Connor. Eve, this is Mina's boyfriend, Connor. He's also a student at Porthampton University. Connor. When Eve heard this name, he was obviously stunned for a moment. A trace of doubt flashed across his eyes. This was because Eve clearly felt that he had heard this name somewhere before. Also, he felt that Connor seemed a little familiar. However, Eve's memory was not very good. He actually did not remember who Connor was for a moment. Moreover, most of Eve's attention was on Mina's slender and fair legs. He had no mood to think about who Connor was. Hello. Connor took the initiative to greet Eve when he saw that Eve did not speak to him for a long time. Hello. Eve replied before turning his attention back to Mina. He smiled and asked Mina, Miss Mina, are you from Porthampton too?
No.
Mina lightly shook her head.
No wonder.
If you are from Porthampton, there's no way one wouldn't have seen such a beauty like yourself before. Eve grinned and wanted to get close to Mina. Sierra stood beside Eve with an awl. However, Eve could not move when he saw Mina. He even ignored Sierra, who was standing at the side. Even though Sierra was not interested in Eve, she was still very unhappy. Eve, this is our first time here. Are you going to just let us stand here? Sierra frowned and shouted in displeasure.
Ah!
Eve came to after hearing this. He quickly reached out and patted his forehead. Then, he smiled at Sierra and said, Sierra, I've already asked someone to prepare a private room. Let's go in. You've been on the move for the whole day, so you must be hungry now.
Humph.
Sierra snorted coldly, then turned around and walked straight into the hotel. Eve was not in the mood to care about Sierra at all. Instead, he focused all his attention on Mina. Even though Mina's boyfriend, Connor, was still standing beside Mina, Eve did not care at all. After all, from the interaction just now, Eve could feel that Connor was just an ordinary person, so he did not take Connor seriously at all. Moreover, he was prepared to poach Mina in front of Connor. However, Mina ignored Eve, her expression extremely helpless. 0.